Good evening, resilient souls, and welcome to Pain2Purpose, the podcast, where we break the silence and amplify voices on the journey from struggle to strength. I'm your host, Pangnia P.T. Burke, and I'm excited to have you with me for another episode. Get ready for real talk, genuine moments, and the journey of turning pain into purpose. Grab your favorite spot, settle in, and let's embark on this transformative ride together. Welcome to the Pain2Purpose podcast, where we explore the transformative journeys of individuals who have turned their pain into purpose. Today, we are honored to have Pierre Barnes joining us as our special guest. Pierre is an incredible individual who has overcome tremendous challenges and emerged strong and more resilient. Their story is a testament to the power of perseverance and resilience. Throughout our conversation today, we'll delve into Pierre's journey, where the darkest moments of pain to inspiring realization of purpose. We'll explore the obstacles they faced, the lessons they learned, and the insights they have gained along the way. Join us as we embark on a journey of hope, inspiration, personal growth, and without further ado, let's welcome Pierre Barnes to Pain2Purpose podcast.
Sit down. Thank you so much. Hello. What's up, sis? How you doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm as good as I can be. Living my best life. That's what That's what I say to make myself feel better.
So we've known each other for almost 10 years. December will be 10 years.
Wow.
And we were just briefly talking about how it doesn't seem like that long ago that we had met.
Right.
And it's crazy that we met in Minnesota and we didn't meet in person until Texas. So it was kind of a journey, and now we're here. So
yes. I'm so excited to be here, and thank you for having me here today. And just because when I share my story, it actually helps me understand my story a little bit better, and for me to better reflect on it and make the changes that I need to make in order to become the best version of myself.
Absolutely. So can you share with us a brief overview of your journey from pain to purpose, what you've been through? And I'll just open up the floor to you.
All right. So I joined this gang. No, I'm just kidding. I didn't. The gang. I mean, actually, the biggest gang I was in was the Air Force, but with the United States Air Force. But that's back in 2002 to 2006. But growing up in St. Paul, I grew up with my loving mother and a stepdad that, let's be honest, he didn't like me that much. But but he, I feel like we always see, Stockholm syndrome allows you to see the best in everybody. And so like you see those little, the good things about him that made him where he was needed in my story, the making of my story.
Yes.
So let's see, grew up in St. Paul in the Rondo neighborhood, aka Frogtown on Aurora and Grotto. And I spent most of my time on punishment in the house, whatever. And it's just constantly being chastised and not being heard. And so, but a lot of those things actually helped me with my parenting, so when I parent my kids, I make sure that I'm hearing them, and I make sure that if I spaz out or yell, like whatever, I sit down with them and let them understand why I was yelling, or let them understand why that would make me mad, or why, and then I'm able to apologize. That's one thing I was just talking to my mom about recently. I was just like, Mom, apology goes a long way. You guys like, you guys never apologize for anything that ever happened. And of course, me being a people pleaser, I was just like, but you're just doing the best you could. Like, and I'm just always just like pointing out the good things because I don't want to hurt her feelings, because I love Mom. Let's see. Graduated from St. Paul Central in 2002. Then I went straight to the military in October 2002. That's where, I think I was disciplined before that, but that just added a little bit more discipline, whatever. It put me in around a lot of good people, and kind of, I feel like it pointed me in the right direction, but I was still getting in trouble, like, because I felt like this sense of, well, I'm not in the house no more, so now I can do whatever I want to do, and but the world had other plans for me in that area as well. So in 2005, that's when I started my barber school, and I ended up 850 hours. Barber school is 1,500 hours. So 850 hours into my schooling, the schooling was 40 hours a week. So I'm like 19 years old trying to figure out how I'm going to make money and be in school for 40 hours a week, and try to figure out how I'm going to bring money into this family that I was in, because I didn't have any kids personally, but the woman I was with, who was 36, had 4 of them. So I was in this situation where I was just kind of like, I felt like I had to be a man, but at the same time, I was just like, how can I do that at the same time? So ended up actually getting into some trouble because I was around some other young men, and they were younger than me. They were still teenagers, 18, 19 years old. And I was 21, 22 years old. And ended up doing some things that were less than honorable to the way that I was raised, and ended up getting locked up. So I was locked up from 2005, September 2005, until 2007. And so started off in St. Cloud, and, so I was 850 hours out into my barbering. And lucky me, in St. Cloud, they had a barbering program. So
wow.
they had a barbering program in St. Cloud, and usually they don't let people in there that have less than a certain amount of months to be there. But somehow somebody talked somebody into let me into the barbering program. And they allowed me to take my hours that I had from the street and bring them and combine them together. So I finished up 900 and something hours when I was in St. Cloud, and I was cutting people's hair through the bars and stuff, whatever. Like, they would, like, if they would have free time or whatever, they'll come up to my bars and like, hey, can you line me up or whatever? And I'm just like, yeah, stick my hands through the bars, because we do have clippers there. And
Literally through the bars.
Yeah, through the bars. And so,
Oh,
like,
wow.
I'll probably write a book about that, like, through the bars, to the window, through the wall. No, shout out to Kanye. But yeah, so and so when I left St. Cloud, I had to go to Stillwater for about 7 or 8 months, and that's where I was cutting hair there as well. And when I got out, I ended up taking my barber's license test, and I passed it because I had a lot of time to study. So, like, studied, passed it when I got out. And I ended up working at Elevation's Barbershop over in St. Paul. That was the first barbershop I ever worked at. So, just to, get out of where I was at, and then to start at a barbershop called Elevations was just like, let's elevate, like, let me get my life right. At that time I was still indulging in all my vices, sex vices, my smoking vices, my drinking vices, cigarettes, black and milds, weed, like everything all mixed together, and just drinking as much as I can, and I'm cutting hair. I am literally cutting kids' hair. I'm not proud of this. I'm like literally cutting kids' hair. A friend would pull up and they'd be like, got this thing out here. And I'd be like, I'll be right back. And so the kid, I'll be right back. The mom's like, this, but when I go outside, do my thing, whatever. I'm freestyling in the car, acting like nothing, like my life is the most important life there is. Just didn't have no accountability, no respect for anybody else's time. That's how that's hindsight is 2020. Looking back at it, look back at it. Look back. No, I'm just kidding. I mean, stop. So then, you can't take it seriously. No, but so then I would come back in, and I'm taking like hour and a half, 2 hours for like one haircut. And I'm just like high and drunk, just not living, not not being the man that I am now. And so, but my work ethic was crazy though. I would be the first one there. I would open up, clean up. I'd be there until like my marketing was great. I would pass out flyers all the time. I'm always marketing. I was always trying to find another way to get people in the door. I would have we would call it elevations extravaganzas, where we would have people just come and would just party at the barbershop type of deal, playing the music loud. I'm standing outside the barbershop waiting for people to come, like, and it, like it was, and then I'll close. Like I would always be there, and then I was like on call. You know, you could call me up and I'll be at the barbershop for you in no time. You know, type of deal. So work ethic was crazy. That was always there, but there was just some things that were holding me back. You know, and it was, you know, definitely myself. Let's see. So started at Elevations Barbershop. Went to TNC Barbershop in Brooklyn Park, Uppercuts Barbershop on Nicollet and 15th in Minneapolis, Jaime's Haberdashery downtown St. Paul, the Groom Room downtown St. Paul. My mom had her own shop on Lexington and Grand in St. Paul for about 7.5 years. That's how long she had her shop. I wasn't working there for 7.5 years, but I did get my master barber's license and I started working there with her for a couple of years. And then I was even at Great Clips, and I was at Great Clips. I was at what is that called? Minnetonka, the mall in Minnetonka, the All Pro Barbershop in Minnetonka. I was there for a while, and then but between that whole time, I had thought of an idea to put a barbershop on wheels. And so I've been fighting this for over 10 years since I met you, yes. To try to make mobile barbershops legal. This whole time. I mean, let's go from 2020 and just say that's when I started all the petitioning, and I put a barbershop on a 20-foot trailer and was able to go from lake to lake. And I had people signing my petition. I got over 1,549 petitions now. And I just sent those off to the legislator. I sent those off to Tu Zhang. He's a representative, a state representative, because next week is the session. We're going into session. And so there is a bill, SF 0885, that is gone into play, that is still active, where they're going to try to help make mobile barbershops legal. And trying to get people to tell their state and local representatives to go and back this bill. And that's all we would need is them to, so it's going to go through a hearing sometime next week. Super excited about that. Something I've been fighting for over 10 years. Yeah, this is a big deal. And right now is like the timing where it's actually happening. And so I'm super excited about that. But went to work through all those barbershops. So the pain of all of it was the path that I took to get to where I'm at now. Isn't, like I was working on cars at that time when I first started barbering it, too, and I was just trying to figure out which one of my skills I was going to hone in on and to get me to the next level. Yes, I had to sacrifice comfort and consistent pay as, working at Jiffy Lube or Tires Plus or Ace Auto Parts. I had that comfort of knowing that I'm going to get a check, to jumping off, and becoming an entrepreneur and just pushing this whole, I'm just going to be the best barber I can be, without any like real guidance on how to become a barber. So, so now I feel like I do have the blueprint as far as how to become the best, your best version of yourself as an entrepreneur. It comes with a lot of time management. Yes. It comes with, communication skills, just being able to respect people's time and know that, it's like a domino effect. Like if you're 10 minutes late, then the next person is going to be 10 minutes late, cause then
yes,
there's back. So just having that enough respect in that area, finances, just being able to balance a checkbook. I say that's aging me right there. Nobody knows what a checkbook is. Just kind of balancing your bank account, and just making sure you get your taxes done and make sure that you're, because at the same time, in 2020 is when I started my schooling for, I'm all over the place here, when I started my schooling for real estate.
Mhm.
And so I am still currently a real estate agent, and that is going well for me. I feel like, we're just waiting for the uh, market to shift again,
Yeah.
because right now the percentage is kind of crazy. But I just started, so now I'm actually at a position where I'm able to, all those things that I was just speaking on in regards to becoming a entrepreneur, now I can utilize that information to actually feed back to the community, because now I'm working with kids over at, as a case manager over at Jimmy Lee Recreation Center with Johnny Knuckles program. And so I'm super excited about that. This is the newest journey that I'm embarking on, is being able to give back to the community now what I know. Like this whole path, like I didn't know that I was trying to find a way to give back to my community, and I was just trying to figure out exactly how I was going to go about doing that. And then, like I was just telling you before we got on here, I had an interview, my second interview at this car dealership. And that same day, I went to the library. And then after I left the library, I get a phone call from, Johnny Knuckles, and he runs a successful program over at the Jimmy Lee Recreation Center. And he's just like, hey, I want to really get you on the team, whatever, boom, boom. I'm just like, first I hung up the phone with him, and, and I was just like, hey, I just had a second interview today at this spot, and I hung up the phone with him. And then I sat there for like 2 minutes, and I was like, man, that's an easy decision. I called him back, whatever. It was like, hey man, yeah, put me in the game, coach. Like put me in. And so it, like, just making a decision from being purposeful to being, yeah, I can make a lot of money, or I could be purposeful. My whole life has
Yes.
been geared around being purposeful, and, having more control of my time, than
Yes.
just having time to be with my kids and be with my family is way more important than filling my pockets up.
Yes.
Although we do need money, like, yeah, we need money. That's cool. But it's, in the long run, I knew that what was good for me is what was good for my kids, is just being able to be there for them.
Yeah.
But
And before we go further, um, you know, you talking about all of the changes in your life throughout these years, what were some of the major like challenges and obstacles that you had to face? I mean, mentally and spiritually, how did that affect you during all these years, from being in the Air Force to being with someone who was older, and then prison time and missing out on your kids? Like, how did that affect you mentally and spiritually?
okay, well, I didn't have my kids until, after. So my daughter wasn't born until I was 25. All the
Oh,
mischief was happening before the age of 25. Emotionally, I didn't even know what emotions were until I was 30 years old. I had embarked on a second marriage. I would consider it a second marriage, although it was just through her belief system that we went through, like, because she was Muslim, and I was, and I was converting from Christianity to and practicing her ways, and just so I can learn more about it. And but spiritually, I feel like God has always been there. He's been a huge part of this whole journey, and and what I realized through my journey of discovering who God was to me, and I know that it's a personal journey. It's a personal thing. At the end of the day, what I figured out for me is that God doesn't care what you call him.
no.
He's not up there saying, that ain't my name, fool. Like, he's there. He knows that your intentions. He knows your intentions.
Yes.
And my first ex-wife, she was Buddhist. Although she converted to Christianity, that allowed me to look at who she was, and because I saw her culture as well, like spent more
Hmm.
time with her family, and I realized that what the Eastern philosophy of things were, and Buddha, like, and just trying to figure out, just looking at just being able to look at that for what it is,
Yep.
and then looking at and practicing that, Islam was another thing for me that just carried me to bringing, and learning about Confucius, and then learning about um, and also learning about what is that? And I brought Ashra Kwesi up here. He's a Griot lecturer, and so he preaches and lectures about the African origins of civilization, the African origins of the Bible, the African origins of Christianity. And then he goes back to the pyramids in Egypt, the pyramids of Giza, I believe they are, and he reads the hieroglyphics, and then he tells us, one of the main things that I learned from him, he was just like, he said, in order to understand the flow of the river, you have to return to its origin, and that's how you realize why the river flows the way it does. And I'm just like, oh, okay. So yeah, I was looking at ancient history versus biblical history. And then that just kind of put me in a better mind frame of time. And so I was just like, oh, wow. And a lot of the characteristics that Horus has, in Egypt, and what Isis had, and what in Egypt is the same characteristics of like Mary and Jesus, and so like being able to study that the way that I was studying it was very eye-opening. But spiritually, I always felt like, God was always carrying me throughout all of these troubles. And but what I realized, I've always come back to my core.
Yes.
My core has always been Christianity. I grew up in a Christian church. So that's what my core resonates the most with. And that's where I don't have and so I don't like to deviate too much from that now. And although I do respect other people's cultures, and I respect their and I don't have a problem talking to anybody with and as far as their spirituality. But back to my emotions, and not knowing what my emotions were until I was 30 years old. It's because the woman I was with, she was very in tune to who she was. She was wearing the hijab. That's when I met her. And I was just like, oh my goodness, like, how does it feel? Like, I always looked at it as, does it feel being behind enemy lines? Like I look at it, America's like a Christian nation. And then how does it feel like being behind enemy lines with that hijab on, when everybody's like ridiculing you and judging you for wearing that? And she was like, actually, this makes me feel like God is hugging me.
Oh, wow.
Blew my mind when she said that. I was like, will you marry me, black looking boy? But yeah, so like, and it was just, that was powerful to me. Like a woman that is in tune with her spirituality and in tune with her God, that loves her God that much, because that's what I require, is a woman that loves God, because she can always turn back to him before she comes to me, and because it wouldn't be a me controlling her thing, it'd be her higher version of herself.
Yeah.
And so she'd be in tune with the highest version of herself, and she can always go and pray, and always go and meditate, and always go to that before we, because there's always all types of conflicts and stuff that arise within relationships, and especially when you live with somebody. And if you go to that person for your, for your solace, or for your peace, or whatever, and then you're just going to be requiring a lot out of that person. I don't honestly think that we're supposed to, physical needs, you got emotional needs, spiritual needs, all of this stuff from one person is just, that's overwhelming. And I don't think that, honestly, that we're supposed to, put that much on each other. But if we have God, we can go to him for our spiritual and emotional needs, and even, for our physical needs, so we can, and then we can come together, and so I always feel that when she asked me, she said, how do you feel? I was 30 years old. I'm just like, what do you mean? I ain't bleeding or anything. Like, what do you mean how I feel? Like, I feel good. Like, no, like, and then she dug a little bit deeper. And there was actually this one time where she had asked me a question. She was just like, how, she was like, okay, so this is going to get explicit. So she basically, let me just not go. So she basically was just like, am I the best? Am I the best you ever had?
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of like, I was like, nah, not, I wouldn't say all that. And then so she,
Oh
of course,
Lord.
yeah, I know, right? So then, of course, she's so mad. And I felt like her disconnect. And I was just like, no, but then I'm laughing. And I'm like, and so like it comes off as disingenuous, and
Mm-hmm.
she's just like, I was like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to say that, but I'm laughing at the fact that I can't believe I just said that.
Yeah.
And then I'm laughing. And then she was like, you're not sorry because you're still laughing or whatever. And I was just like, I'm sorry, I'm trying to stop laughing, but I can't. And then and then I just burst out into tears, and I started crying or whatever. And she was just like, and then she's like, what? And then she turns around and she looks at me. She understands exactly what I was going through. She had 3 sons. And so she just gives me a hug. She hugs me. And then I'm just like, what was that? And she said, you lost control of your emotions and I had to bring you back down to earth. And I was just like,
Wow.
wow. And ever since that moment, I was using that on my daughter. I was using that on my son, and my son was using that on my daughter. Just the power of hugs, just bringing people back down to earth, and
Mm-hmm.
and just gaining back control and being back in their body. And that was huge lessons that I was learning throughout these relationships that I was in. Failed relationships, but they were all lessons, and
Yes.
I'm really able, and I'm so glad that I'm able to look at these failed relationships as lessons. And because it's not, in that sense of things, it's not really a failure, and so I do know how to brainwash myself, and that's one way I do it. But and yeah, so spiritually, I felt like God was always with me emotionally. I felt like, I had a lot of learning to do, and I've been doing that over this time. Being locked up put me into books. I keep books. I always keep a book open, even 3 to 4 at one time, at sometimes, right now. And so,
What was your turning point? What was that moment of realization that helped you discover your purpose of where you are now?
okay, the turning point was like I like to give a lot of credit to my daughter because in 2009, I went from being like the hoest of the hoiest hoes out here, because I was just slutting away. And until when I met my now ex-wife, and I had Justine, this was the first time ever in my life being faithful to a woman, you
Mm.
know. And so that was a turning point for me because then after that relationship, hindsight is 2020. I can always look back. So after that relationship, I realized my karma that I got back for being loyal and being faithful and being focused versus sleeping around or whatever and not knowing why things are happening to me,
Mm-hmm.
because you have all these spiritual connections to people after you have sex with them. And so realizing why I was at where I was at and having a clearer view on life is where I feel that it was a huge turning point for me, because then I realized how much power I had in my actions, and and how much my actions had control over uh, what was to come next. So being in more control of myself. And another turning point, actually, huge turning point, is I just celebrated. I'm going to be celebrating 11 years sober in May. you know. So yeah,
Congratulations.
thank you. And so 11 years alcohol free in May, and that was huge for me to be able to gain traction of who I was and why I was reacting the way I was, and realizing my trauma, and so gaining more control over my actions, over my reactions, and over my, and over everything that's happening to me in my life. I have to face it.
Yes.
There's no running from it. There's no hiding from it. It's just when it happens, and I have to find ways to cope with it outside of drugs and alcohol. And one of the ways that I've been able to cope with the life, is meditation or the gym. Like I've been killing the gym, because that's where I just let it all out, and and praying, just talking to my kids, and talking to the therapist, and the counseling has actually been real good for me, because just knowing that I have somewhere to reach out to, and just to be able to, and most of the time therapy is just hearing myself,
Yes.
just being able to hear myself so I can be like, oh, that's what I'm saying about me. Let's readjust these words, like I used to be like, oh, I used to say like, oh, I'm a felon, I'm a felon. And then I was just like, no, I did some things that were less than honorable to the way that I was raised. So that changes your title that you're putting on yourself. I would
Yes.
never call myself a felon. Like I would never call it like I did something. Yeah. Then I made a mistake. Yeah. But that doesn't make me who I am. It doesn't write the rest of my story, because I still have a purpose on this planet, and
Yes.
being a part of a group of people that call themselves a certain thing isn't for me. I don't like to fit into boxes. That's been the whole 1099 journey in itself. Uh, that's I'm a serial entrepreneur. It's what I do. I just like finding another way to uh, feed my kids without having to be locked in or sell my soul. And I don't like saying that, but I would sell my soul to a purpose driven life.
Hmm.
Shout out to Rick Warren. That was actually a really good book. A Purpose Driven Life by Rick Warren. My On the front of the book, it actually says, "What on earth are we here for?" Uh, uh,
I haven't read it.
oh, it's a great book. So yeah, on the front of the book, it says, "What on earth am I here for?" And I asked my daughter this question about 6 years ago. No, she was 6 years old, and she was just like, she was like, to breathe, to live, to learn, to laugh, and to have fun. And she said this stuff at 6 years old. I was just like, yo, that's genius. Life could be so simple, and when you look at it through a kid's perspective. And she said that, and it blew my mind. And so she always has kept me connected. I always told her that she's going to help me master the universe. And I ask her these questions. They're called Zen cones, and then so there's a Zen cone called. It says, "Imagine a goose in a bottle." I believe I asked you this question one time or
Hmm.
twice. Now, imagine a goose in the bottle. How do you get the goose out of the bottle without cracking the bottle open or popping the cork off to get the
I
goose out?
remember. I couldn't answer you.
Yeah. And so a lot of people can't. I've been asking this question for over 10 years. And
Hmm.
so she said, my daughter, she said, you crack it open? And I was just like, that's genius. She said it right away. It was the fastest answer that I've ever gotten from anybody, and I was just like, that's genius. And it's actually really funny. But
Yes.
yeah, but I always ended with, just for your viewers or whatever, to be like, the goose was never in the bottle. I told you to imagine the goose in the bottle. So,
Okay.
And I tell them, like, it's just like your problems. God never comes down and says, hey, you've been a good girl, I'm gonna take your problems away from you. It just kind of shows you that they were never there, like the goose in the bottle. And so, like, I feel like Zen Koan is a question that doesn't have a right or wrong answer. It just creates a new neurological pathway in your brain so you don't think about questions the same again. So, like, I feel like every time I've had this conversation with people, like, it opens them up and it brings them into a new light in life so they can just, uh, realize who they are and who they are becoming, and the power of their self and the power of their words and the power of their, they say, wow, what's the greatest nation on this planet? Imagination. So when people take control of their imagination, like, the world is their oyster, the world becomes theirs, and the power of the mind is just one of the like if I felt like I had a purpose on this planet, it would be to show people, or to show people themselves, the picture of themselves, and so they can realize how powerful they are, and so they can become the best version of themselves. And that's what I feel like my purpose here on this planet is. Did I even answer your question?
You did. Yes,
Okay.
you did.
Don't worry.
Yeah. And I was going to ask you, and you've already given it a little bit already, but what advice would you give to others who may be struggling, to find meaning in their life, to find direction and understanding of what they're going through?
Right. What I would do, and what I would tell them, is that it's nothing that they got to go and find. It's nothing that is outside of them. It's something that resonates within them. And it's trying its hardest to bring what you want into your life. And at the same time, it's trying to pull everything outside of you that doesn't belong to you. It's trying to repel everything away from you that doesn't belong with you, but you're holding on to it. And so that resignation from within you is trying to get you to let go of things, let go of the way that you've learned things, let go of what you believe, let go of what of what they taught you, your parents taught you, what your teachers taught you, let go of pain, let go of, toxic
Hate.
people, hate, and any type of, like, something that's in your heart that doesn't belong. It doesn't belong.
Yes.
And so in order to attract who you are, you have to let go of who you aren't. We're at the core, we're not hateful, and we're at the core, we resonate in love and light. So we have to realize that. And once we realize who we are and the power of our minds and the power of our our love and our divine, being and this existence and this planet, is like, once we realize what that is, and then and hold on to that, and then we'll all be in a better position.
Yeah. Let me ask you, throughout your journey, because hurt people hurt people. So we've hurt people along the way. If you could say something to those people, what would you say to them now, in the person you are, in what you are now?
Oh, if I could say anything to the people I hurt, I would just be like, if I could say anything to them, I'd be like, fool, you shouldn't have messed with the 20-year-old me. No, I'm just kidding. No.
I knew you were gonna come with.
Yeah, I'd tell them that. There wouldn't be anything that I'll just let them know that forgiveness isn't unlocking and letting me out the closet. Forgiveness is you allowing yourself to get out the closet. Because once you forgive me and no, you don't even have to forgive me. I don't need your forgiveness. You got to forgive yourself for allowing me to do what I did, like, you forgive yourself for that mistake. And that's going to make you even more freer than any of the kind words that I can say to you right now. I can
Mm-hmm.
say, if you give me another chance, like I love you the way that you need to be loved. Like I can say all the kindness. I can say like you're a very strong person, and you were this, that, and the other for me, and you showed me this, that, and that's not going to make them feel good enough. There's nothing I can say to make them feel good enough to get past that hurt. They have to get past that hurt. And once they do and find the words to forgive themselves and not allowing it to, I would say, I bet you didn't let that happen again. I would say that to them. I bet you didn't let that happen again.
No,
You're
they
welcome.
didn't.
Yeah, you learned your lesson. You're welcome. Definitely, and but that's one thing I would say. And if and best things are best left to the wind.
Yes.
Most like even when it comes to death, there's nothing you can say to anybody to make them feel better about somebody dying. Because when they
No.
lost me or anybody in my past lost me, they had to experience a death. And when we lose anybody, it's like a death. So the best things are left to the wind. You just leave it, and just
It's a grief process.
yeah, you just breathe,
Yes.
and the best thing, that I do, I feel like I can bring to the table for anybody that experienced death is give them a hug. There's no words that I can say,
Yeah.
and once that's probably been the most helpful thing for me is just forgiving myself and like letting the air do what air does.
Yes. So I'm going to shift this. If you
Okay.
can leave a message for your children to someday look back at this, what would that be? Because you now have 3 kids, 2 boys and a girl.
Yeah.
What would that message be to them if something was to happen to you and you wanted to leave them a message? What would that be?
What would my message be to my babies? It's just be like, there's just so many of them. I would, if there was a lesson that I was to tell my kids, if I left this earth, I would tell them just, I don't know, it just seems so simple to say, like, never give up, because that's literally the story of my life is just never giving up and
Mm-hmm.
just just never stop learning, like never think you're there,
Mm-hmm.
because you're there's no there. Because when you like every time you have a goal, like it's good to have goals. Like I never knock goals, but once you get that goal, you're gonna realize that now you have another goal.
Mm-hmm.
There's never there. Just keep on striving for becoming the best version of yourself, whatever
Yeah.
that may be. That's probably what I would tell. Just keep becoming. Never think that there's a piece of paper or doctrine or a degree that can define you. Don't let anything define you. Redefine yourself every single day. Like
Amen.
redefine love, redefine, family, redefine your position in the company that you may work for. Redefine it. Redefine how you look or just be the author of your own book.
Yes.
Define everything the way that you want to define it. Keep a journal, write, and then reflect. Look back at who you were to who you've become and who you want to become.
Yeah.
But always be who you are. Don't get caught up in trying to become and don't get caught up on trying to heal. And trying to fix. Just be who you are, be now, and be okay with that.
Yeah.
Because trauma, although that trauma thing is, you do need to go back to your trauma. So like this is different. This psychology piece of it is that you got to go back to the trauma, realize the defense mechanisms that you came up with from that trauma, realize
Mm-hmm.
the coping mechanisms that you came up with from that trauma, and tell your younger self you don't need that anymore, and become the best version of yourself through letting go of those coping mechanisms and letting go of the defense mechanisms that you came up with to protect yourself at that time. You don't
Yes.
need to protect yourself that way anymore. Be who you are right now, the best version of yourself. Be here, be now, which is actually a really good book. what is that? That Eckhart Tolle book? Uh, what is that? What is it? Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now. I think that's what it's called. That's crazy. You know what's crazy is I have 3 copies. I have 3 copies of that book, and I don't have them anywhere. But oh no. How do I have 3 copies of that book and I can't find? But anyway, Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, probably one of the best books. I read that one again.
I just want to say I've always admired your relationship with your children because you have a unique relationship that you don't often see with people. Because in the beginning, you said, we were talking earlier, you discipline them, but you also explain to them why you discipline them. So it teaches them not to do that over. And I think that parents nowadays, they don't take that step, especially when we're not healed from our trauma. We tend to take it out on our kids because they're the closest thing to us. And I think that throughout the years that I've known you, your relationship with them and the bond that you have with them, I just admire that. And I hope that one day when I have kids again, that's the type of relationship that I build with my kids.
Thank you so much. Yeah.
You're welcome.
I just try to be what I didn't have, and plus as a single father or whatever, I have to be both. I have to recognize, because I know the dynamics that a woman brings to the table. So I know that I have to be both disciplinary and nurturing at the same time. So as a man, that's, I have to be emotionally intelligent, enough. So I'm not just exerting my authority, that's easy to scare a kid, but why do you want to do things that way? There's another way to coerce, a kid to doing what's best for them in the long run. So, they're very important to me, and I've learned so much through having them that I'm more grateful for them than I am anything else on this planet. That's, I always put them first. Anytime my life falls apart, in which it has a couple times, I start my life based on what can I do for my kids first.
Yes.
And then what can I do for my kids every day? Okay, what can I do for my kids weekly? Okay, what can I do for my kids monthly? Okay, so then I start there. And then I add in something else. Okay, now how can I make their life better through going to work? You know what I
Yes.
So now I gotta go to work and add that in. Okay, so let's add in church because we have extra time. I hate to say that you have to use extra time to go to church, whatever. But and so then you add little things. Oh, now they can play sports. So you're gonna add the sports in there. You just stem everything into their life, and then everything else works itself out. And but a lot of people would think, no, you go to work first, and then you put, you go to work, you get the money first, and then you can come and take care of your kids, and then you can give them everything that they want. But it's more than giving your kids everything that they want. Always saying yes to them. And I'm just like, some people have that philosophy of, I'm never going to say no to my kid. I'm never not going to give them what they want. And it's just like, what are you creating here?
Preach. Preach.
They're creating these narcissists out here.
Yes.
And that's detrimental to society, because although society is ran by narcissists itself, but we don't want to create more of those. In Minnesota here, we actually have our first woman Congress. They're all women, and I don't think I'm using the right terminology, but they're running this joint, and it's kind of amazing to see they're really making changes, and that's just a different way of doing things outside of being patriarchal, being man ran. And so it's fun to be in this part of history, just realizing the emotional intelligence of some women and how they and how they lead versus how a man leads in certain areas. Kids of the world, love them.
That's awesome. Yeah, I admire you because I remember calling you one day. I think I was just going through my changes and trying to stay disciplined. And I was like, how do you do it, bro? Like, I can't do this, because what people don't realize is that when you start building your relationship with God and start walking with Him, like it becomes even harder,
Yeah,
to try to live your day to day because now the devil's like, okay, I'm going to start throwing things at her or I'm going to start throwing things at him so that they can be pushed away from God. And it was easier for me to go back to what I was comfortable with,
yeah.
and like I watched you not eat chicken for 280 some days. And I'm like, how did he do that? Like,
Yes.
oh, you had so much discipline. And I think a lot, I don't think I've ever told you, but a lot of my discipline now and understanding of life came from our conversations, to be like, okay, I need to be more disciplined. If I say that I'm going to do something, I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
And, be a person of my words and just go through with it. Even if I don't want to do it, I've already committed to it. And you've always been that. Like, if you say that you're going to do something, you always do it. And sadly enough, there's not a lot of people like that anymore,
That's so true. And because being a person that values your word is not it's not put in the spotlight anymore. It's just
No.
it's like, yo, you gotta value what you say. Like I got a good
Mhm.
friend of mine. He went to Dunwoody and became a, a technician straight out of high school, and
Mhm.
then he went to and became a lawyer. He passed his bar exam, not that long ago, maybe 2 years ago. And then he just what, 3 days ago became a St. Paul police officer. So
Oh,
like,
wow.
and yeah, so everything that he said that he was going to do, he did it, and those are my type of people, I
Yes.
gravitate towards those type of people because discipline is everything. You can have all the talent in the world, but you unless you have that discipline of consistency, then they're
Yes.
just pretty much that's the core of everything is your discipline.
Yeah.
When you look at somebody's body that lifts that lifts weights consistently, that they would tell you the same thing. Like
Yes.
this didn't just come overnight. Like this is like years and years and years of hard work. A lot of people think that you can just go to the gym. They go to the gym for 2 weeks and be like, it ain't working. Like I was just in this relationship with somebody, and just gonna not say nobody names or whatever, but we went to counseling twice, and she was just like, "Nope, we went twice and it didn't work, or whatever, because we're still arguing or whatever. I don't think we should go anymore." Or whatever. And I was just like, hold on. It's like going to the gym twice and expecting 6-pack abs. And she's like, "Oh, you can't compare the two. That's not the same," or whatever. Blah. I was like, "Yo, therapy and counseling is a lifelong journey.
It
Like
is.
it's a journey. It's not something that you just go and get a quick fix and then you're good. Like that's just not how it works.
No.
But when you're dealing with people that are always right, they want to be in control, and then they're going to find ways to validate their existence and validate
Their
or
reasoning.
invalidate what you're saying, huh?
Yeah.
And
I mean, validate their reasoning of why therapy isn't working, you
yeah,
know? Yeah.
but it's neither here or there. Leave those people to their self, man. You gotta leave those people alone. I'm telling
Yes.
you. Yeah.
So as we come to the end of our podcast of many, because I know that I'm going to have you back on this platform. Is there anything else you would like to share with our audience?
If there was anything I was to share with the audience, I just kind of like flicked open the page and like I just kind of like did my rule of thumb. I went like this, whatever, and I was just trying to see if it would say something. Um, you know, So it says, like, I'll just read the first thing I saw. It says, God's word generates life, it creates faith and produces change, and it frightens the devil, and it causes miracles, and it heals hurts, it builds character, it transforms circumstances, it imparts joy, it overcomes adversity, it defeats temptation, it infuses hope, it releases power, it cleanses our minds, and it brings things into being and guarantees our future forever. And I feel like
Wow.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah.
Um,
That was actually really good. And I know that this is not about me, but I wanted to bring this up because yesterday I just had this like huge dilemma about staying consistent, you know, and I was like, you know, I don't know if I want to continue with my podcast. And I know this is, you know, my audience is probably going to be like, why are you telling us this? But I bring this up because meeting with you was my answer, you
nice.
know,
Yeah.
and I don't want to get emotional, but it's just been hard, you know, when you're trying to juggle being a wife, when you're trying to work full time, when you're trying to, you know, I don't have kids and I couldn't imagine having kids right now. But I have 2 dogs and I
Yeah.
just think about it on that level of like there's so many things going on. I have businesses that are starting to take off in ways that I didn't imagine it would, in a good way. And I feel like the devil is constantly reminding us of what we're not, you
Yeah.
know, bring us back to who we used to be, you know, and I just find myself like I found myself yesterday really struggling and I was like, God, I need a word. Like I don't care, send someone to me to remind me of my purpose.
Right.
So this has really, you know, just validates the path that I'm walking on, you know, to be able to share your story with the world and to be able to um, joke about things, but also reflect on the things that has impacted your life to be where you are now with God. So,
Thank you.
so
Thank
thank
you
you.
for
Yeah.
taking the time to, follow through with what you said you were going to do, and you did
Yeah.
it. And this is one of many. Yeah. And I'll be around, and I'll be hollering at you soon.
Yes, absolutely. So, anything else? Any last words? And ladies, he is single. Just so you guys know, he is single. And he lives in Minnesota, so
Yeah. I, I am so focused right now. That's what
I
I
know.
said. I mean, I am so focused right now, but I just, I'm just hoping for the best. And, I, you know, my biggest thing is just becoming the best version of myself through actions and through I feel like I'm living in my purpose right now. Like I'm
Mhm.
at where I'm supposed to be. I'm actually working in the Jimmy Lee Recreation Center where I was playing football at when I was in fifth grade, fifth grade, sixth grade, seventh grade, eighth grade. I played football at this place, and being in there as an adult is just like so bringing me back, and into myself. And now I feel like I have a higher purpose, and just trying
It's
to
full
keep
circle. It's full
it
circle.
is. Yep. And I'm at where I'm supposed to be right now, and got rid of the people that weren't good for me. And that was just the hardest thing to do, especially in your people pleaser. But it's
Mhm.
just one of those things that I'm so proud of where I'm at right now that, I'm
And
good.
I'm proud. I'm proud of you. So one last thing, if someone has resonated with your story, how can they reach out to you on social media or
Yeah, they can add me on Facebook. You can add me on Facebook. It's pretty much going to be my name, Pierre Barnes, Piere, just one R. And then, or they can Add me on Instagram, where my name is like A Right Way Home, because the real estate thing, A Right Way Home, and then I have another real estate page which is A Right Way Home. That's just all real estate, and then I have another Instagram page which is Shuttle Cuts, which is the mobile barbershop thing. So yeah, and then of course yeah, but the fun version of me is on Snapchat. Sometimes I forget what my name is on Snapchat. And how do I even find that? Uh,
Um,
my name on Snapchat. It's Pierre precision underscore P. Yeah, that's my precision under mother. Okay. So yeah, that's the fun version of me. That's backwards, but precision underscore P. That's That's gonna be fun, but don't judge me. I'm just having fun.
well, I just want to thank you again for coming onto our platform and sharing your story. I know that it's never easy to reflect back on all of the things that has happened in your life, and we can't cover everything in 1 hour. So I know you'll be back. you know,
Yes.
when that law gets passed and you can drive around in your mobile haircut. What is it?
Yeah.
Shuttle cuts. Yep.
Yep. Shortcuts. Yes.
Yep.
It's coming.
So,
I'm so excited about that. It's coming.
and that concludes today's episode of Pain2Purpose, where we believe in breaking silence and amplifying voices. Remember, your story matters. If any part of our conversation resonated with you, or if you have your own stories to share, please reach out to us. Our contact information is in the show notes. Until we meet again on this path of purpose, keep embracing the journey. This is your host, Pain2Paurpose, signing off. See you in the next chapter of Pain2Purpose.